see a bunch of you are still logging on, so we will wait a minute or two while I introduce the presentation. And Deb, no problem if you have no mic. We will take the questions, and the only way we're taking the questions is via chat or question and answer boxes, so that's totally fine. As always, we will be recording this webinar, and we will make it available in a day or two on our website, on our YouTube channel, and you will be emailed once that recording becomes available. We will also share the PowerPoint and the any resources that we talk about during this presentation. So I just wanted to briefly introduce the webinar and the topic, and let Mary Ellen and Karen take it away. Just a second here. All right, so Mary Ellen and Karen have developed guidelines for integrating the HealthMatters curriculum in the Project Search program year. The guidelines align HealthMatters lesson plans with the 8 subject areas of the Project Search course of study and provide a week-by-week blueprint for curriculum delivery. In this presentation, we will discuss the guideline document and share knowledge gained through a pilot trial of the curriculum guidelines at the 10 Project Search sites throughout the Ohio. I just wanted to, again, reiterate, we are recording this webinar. We will hold all questions to the end unless there's a technical difficulty, and I'll try to troubleshoot throughout the webinar and use a chat or a question box for that. These webinars are hosted by the HealthMatters program at the University of Illinois at Chicago in partnership with Project Search, and they have been funded by the Ohio Developmental Disabilities Council. All right, welcome everyone. Mary Ellen?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you so much, Yasmina, for the introduction and for the opportunity. HealthMatters and Project Search have a great friendship and collaborative relationship, and this project that we're going to talk about is a big part of that, and as well as this webinar series. So we really appreciate it. This study has been done in collaboration with Project Search, which is headquartered at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I'm Mary Ellen Daston, and I work at Cincinnati Children's on the Project Search administrative team. Karen Guo, who is also going to be part of this presentation, delivering the bulk of the presentation. She is a pediatric occupational therapist at Disabilities first. Karen started working on this project when she was an occupational therapy doctoral student, and thankfully has stuck with it and is still part of the team, and in fact really the driving force behind much of the work that gets done on this project that we're going to be just talking about. Julie Christensen is policy director for APSE and also holds a faculty position at the Harkin Institute in Iowa. Julie's been part of this from the very beginning and really kicked things off with the study she did on health messages, which is related to the HealthMatters curriculum. And of course, there's Beth Marks and Yasmina Cicerek, the HealthMatters program team, who you all know. So I'm going to start out. I know that many of you have heard us talk about this project before, but I wanted to give some background for those of you who are not part of the Project Search team. This is based on a presentation that we gave last summer at the Project Search conference with some updates. And so I just want to get some of you who have heard us speak about this before. Some of the introductory material will be repetitive, but I wanted to go through it to kind of bring everybody up to the same place, because I know with these webinars, we really draw from a much broader audience. So I'm going to start out, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what Project Search is. Project Search is a transition to work program for young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The goal of the program and our measure of success is competitive integrated employment. Project Search is, we say 1 year, it's an academic year, 9 months, with an additional 9 months following the program to give plenty of time for job development and ultimately hiring. So it takes place in a host business. And in the host business, the participants in Project Search do internships in a variety of departments throughout the host business where they can experience career exploration in different types of work and also build skills. Then, of course, it culminates in customized job search. So why are we doing this project? Project Search is all about employment. So why are we doing health and fitness? Well, Project Search works with young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and this population has particular challenges and barriers to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. I'm not going to read through all of these on the slide, but I think these should be familiar to most of you, these barriers and challenges. And we feel like as though health and fitness are really critical to gaining employment and keeping employment. So we also know that the life stage of life that we work with, this transition, most of our interns are transitioning from high school to adult life. And this is a really critical period for establishing adult patterns for healthy, long and healthy life. So Project Search has always had health and fitness as part of their curriculum, but several years ago, when Project Search was just starting in Scotland, the Scottish government did a small study to sort of see some of the effects of Project Search. And this star chart is a little hard to get used to looking at, but what it shows is 2 Project Search classes. So the light blue and the darker blue circles represent year 1, and then the yellow and the orange circles represent year 2, and the light blue and the yellow are prior to Project Search, and then the same measures of all of these different factors were taken after Project Search, and that is the orange and the dark blue. So, for example, we saw big changes at the top, motivation and taking responsibility. You can see there's, for both the year 1 and year 2, you can see a big change, and that change is shown in the difference between the light blue point, which is 4, and the dark blue, which is a 9. So employability, of course, big difference. But if you look at health, down at the bottom, the change wasn't so great. So even though we had health and fitness as part of our curriculum, we felt like we could do more. So we started with this commitment to supporting health and fitness and teaching it in a very focused way during this transition period. We did some research and recognized HealthMatters as really the best tool to be used in the Project Search environment. So I think most of you probably know what HealthMatters is, but I'm just going to talk about it briefly. Many things about it were appealing to us. It is evidence-based. It's for exactly the population that we work with in Project Search. It has a really comprehensive set of lessons that cover all sorts of topics, such as exercise, nutrition, drinking enough water, just a lot of different topics, very comprehensive. And it starts with helping the students understand their own attitudes towards health and exercise, to identify their current patterns, to have the knowledge to develop goals and to stick to those goals. And another thing that really spoke to us is that the support during class, the support of the cohort in making the goals and keeping the goals, because Project Search is that's really another element of Project Search that's really important. We start with a small cohort for each program year of maybe 8 to 12 interns, and they all work together and they support each other in that journey to gaining skills and finding employment. And so it fit in very well. Another thing about HealthMatters that also fit into the Project Search way of thinking is that HealthMatters curriculum is delivered in such a way that it's relevant to the whole lives of the students, not just that time, that sort of isolated time when they're in their HealthMatters class, taking the class. And then the idea is that they don't just take the class and spend their hour in the class and then forget about it. It's taught in a way that you understand the relevance to the different aspects of the student's life, the community, the workplace, and the home. And again, Project Search has this integrated and all-encompassing effect. So I'm going to, the work that we're doing now then is taking this HealthMatters curriculum, which is designed as a standalone 12-week program, and integrating that curriculum into Project Search program, which is a 9-month full academic year in a place of business. So I'm going to hand it over to Karen now. Karen has really been as I said, the driving force in a lot of the work that we've been doing, and she's going to explain it to you and show you where we are now and what is new. And a lot of this is brand new, even since we delivered this last summer. And certainly, given the situation that we're in now, we'll talk about COVID-19 and the response to the pandemic and how that's affecting everything we do. And certainly it's affecting Project Search programs and all the places of work where we have our programs. So we'll be talking about that as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Karen now.
Hi, everybody. This is Karen. Thanks for joining for our webinar. I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I've had a change in location. So I was originally going to do this at my office, but I had to come back home. So if you hear my puppy in the background, I will try to entertain him long enough so that he's not crying through the whole presentation. So let's see if I can get this going. So from what Mary Ellen was talking about, we created a guideline for Project Search instructors to use to incorporate HealthMatters into the Project Search curriculum. We really wanted to emphasize and highlight the importance of health and wellness in employment and make this feasible and easy to use for instructors during their planning process and easy for them to implement. We know that changing health behaviors is not easy by all means. Habits that we've built throughout our lives are ingrained into our daily routines. So changing that takes a process. So like any behavior change, health behavior change follows the same process from pre-contemplation to thinking about what you need to change, preparing your body, your environment for those changes, doing it and maintaining that behavior. The progress may not be linear or stay on track the entire time, and it requires constant reevaluation of your behavior changes. So how does the health and wellness fit into the Project Search employability curriculum? It really is the core of our performance in our daily routine, self-care, and how we perform at our job. As we go through this period with COVID-19, the pandemic, we're really seeing the true importance of staying healthy to work and being able to follow the increased hygienic regulations to keep yourself and others safe, which is of ultimate importance right now. So there are lessons in the HealthMatters curriculum that line up with some of these topics and a bunch of other topics that can help interns maintain employment, such as knowing what good versus bad pain is, how sleep affects their performance in their job, if they can work if they're sick, which obviously right now is super important with COVID-19. And right now it just highlights the importance of how important your health is to your work. So a little bit of a background of our entire project. This started back in 2015 with Julie Christensen, who's one of our team members, where she trialed health messages with in Ohio and in New York. Then in 2016 at our annual conference, United Healthcare donated hundreds of the HealthMatters curriculum to Project Search. So every attendee received a copy of that. So that jump-started the use of HealthMatters in Project Search. In 2017, which was year one for our project, Project Search received funding from the Ohio DD Council to really study HealthMatters curriculum within Project Search. And then in 2018, we created the first draft of the modified guideline and started the pilot project with 10 of our sites in Ohio. In 2019, year three, we completed the pilot project and gathered all the feedback and data we needed to really bolster our guideline to use within the Project Search curriculum. So right now we're in 2020, year four of our project. We're in the finalization stage of our guideline and hoping to distribute this sometime in July. What we learned from our pilot study through instructor feedback was the usability of the guidelines, barriers to using HealthMatters and our guideline, interest in how the interns responded to the lessons, and any suggestions for how we could improve the guideline. Some of the barriers that instructors were coming across were time constraints, space allowed at their employer site, and also the level of the content. Through our site visits during our pilot project year, we saw this need for knowledge translation, going from knowing what to do to actually taking action to do it. Our goal is to promote healthy lifestyles to prevent further complications later in life through meaningful occupations and activities in an individual's lifetime, instead of focusing on just their deficits and trying to remediate those. So in order to reframe our mindset during these health education lessons, we really want to focus on eating healthier, being more physically active, and making better choices for their bodies and minds, and really doing those things. And the way to, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. The way to do that and to get them engaged in all these forms of activity and nutritional health, making healthier choices at lunchtime, and really problem solving what they can do at home and what resources are available to them outside of just Project Search. That way the interns have the knowledge that they'll need moving forward in their lifetime. And from what we've seen in the results of the pre-test and the post-test, the interns have the knowledge, the basic health knowledge, and even we every now and then need reminders of what they are. And so this is a great way to really reinforce those. So our goal is really to have them doing what they know and learn as they're doing it. The following slides will see some of the data that we've collected from our pilot project. We kind of have to take our results with a grain of salt, knowing that we didn't have all the participants' results for the post-test. So you can see there's a 27% attrition in that. But we did see some changes. As you can see, there were some slight improvements in participation in physical activity, increasing by 12%. for moderate intensity physical activity. On the chart on the right, you can see that more participants were being active 1 to 4 times a week, and less participants weren't working out at all. So they're at least working out 1 time a week. And that's a huge change after a year of doing HealthMatters. Minimal changes were seen in knowledge attainment. Their scores were pretty high to begin with, slightly increased knowledge about physical activity and slight decrease in nutrition and the total scale. But more importantly, the HealthMatters program really made the interns feel better. They thought it was fun and worth their time. And even 80% of the interns would recommend the program to their peers and would want to do it again. So I mentioned briefly before our plans for 2020, which is year 4 right now for us. With COVID-19, we've had to make a few modifications with our planning. We've had to cancel our end of the year 5K and postpone our grant advisory board to get input from our stakeholders, which we really feel highly that we need their input. So hopefully, whether we do a virtual meeting or at some point can meet to get their input, that'd be great. But we will continue with finalizing the guideline and eventually distributing this for instructors to use. So for those that have been a part of our webinar before or were a project site, this page will look really familiar. This is what our guideline resources page looked like. They include a direct reference to the HealthMatters lessons and handouts, access to Kahoot quizzes that are pre-made, interactive activity ideas, links back to employment for discussion purposes, and additional resource links for instructors to use with their interns, whether they needed to make the content simpler or add more content to make it more of a challenge for their interns. So our main changes going into this 4th year are a uniform lesson plan that aligns with the employability curriculum, shorter lesson plans to accommodate time constraints, emphasize on doing first and discussing after, and then also a plethora of resources for instructors, and of course links back to the relevance to employment. So let's take a look at what the new lesson plan looks like. I cannot take credit for this template. The template was made by Susie and her work team of instructors that have been working really hard to create this comprehensive lesson template to guide instructors through lessons with everything that they'll need to prepare and to implement. So the credit really goes to them, and we are really graciously able to showcase this during our webinar. So throughout this, I wanted to highlight a few different portions of the lesson plan. Then we'll get to some fun resources that I have for you guys later on. First, we have the lesson summary, some notes for the instructor, and the implementation time frame for lessons that should be, whether they should be in the beginning of the school year, in the middle or the end, or whether they can be flexible or not. Then there's a glossary for keywords for each lesson that will be defined if there are any words that are jargon or things that are really key in the lesson. They'll be defined in the glossary portion of the lesson plan. Next, there's a section for pre-planning. So these are all the things that you'll have to do prior to implementing this lesson. So instead of trying to scramble at the start of the lesson with the items and things you'll need to do, you'll have this checklist right there for you. And along with that, you'll have a list of all the handouts, any technology if needed for that lesson, and any additional supplies that you'll need to complete this lesson. Something pretty brand new to these lesson plans are these critical thinking questions and on the next slide as well, the mastery objectives. These are to really provide a guide to the lesson and can be used kind of as lesson objectives and discussion questions. This lesson template focuses on Bloom taxonomy, the hierarchy of learning. So going from knowledge to understanding what you're learning to applying the topics, and then analyzing, evaluating, and creating something from the information that you've been given and are learning. So for this next slide, boundary spanning, this is a new term that Susie has put a name to. It's definitely a concept that we've talked about. Through our project, it has come up in like activity ideas, instructor feedback, and through our grant advisory board that carryover and community engagement will provide interns with skills within Project Search and beyond. So this term boundary spanning is really using your external supports and reaching out to local partners and resources, local experts that really are already there and exist and that can enrich your lessons. This is important to create relationships with partners in your community. And it could potentially decrease the workload as an instructor if you're bringing in experts. They already are able to plan the lesson and have the knowledge to share with your interns, and reaching out to others to share resources with each other so that we're not recreating the wheel every time we're trying to teach a lesson. And then also interns are able to learn from experts on certain topics and build relationships with these community partners. And then there's another section for intern evaluation. Really, these are the lesson objectives. What do we want our interns to get out of each lesson, and what should be completed by the end of each lesson? Differentiation strategies is a section that will help instructors think of other ways they could really present the content. With the lesson plan, there's kind of just a generic way you could present it, but there's definitely other ways that you could implement using group work, pairs, using different technologies such as websites and apps, which I'll show you in a little bit, and like a teach back method. Those are just a few examples. So this training plan, this is kind of the bulk of what we originally had in our first draft of our guideline. And this is to guide the instructor on the order of activities, amount of time estimated for each activity, and how to implement the lesson. So overall, that was kind of a quick glance at the lesson template. I know it's a lot. There's a lot of new components, but we really hope that this will aid instructors and encourage instructors to use these lesson plans integrally into their weekly plans, as the Project Search curriculum will look like this as well. So on to some fun stuff. As we've gone through our project, we've come up with a lot of new activity ideas and a lot of resources for our instructors. I know right now a lot of people may be trying to do a lot of remote teaching, utilizing a lot of online resources. So a lot of this focuses on what kinds of apps and websites can we be using during Project Search, and the types of apps that our interns might use in everyday life beyond Project Search. So let's see some activity ideas to fill your toolboxes. So for physical health, there's a lot of fun YouTube videos for yoga and Zumba. It's a really fun, free way to get a workout in. Having standing meetings to decrease the amount of sitting in the classroom. Even inviting like coworkers at their work site to go for a post-lunch walk throughout the week. You can also do a morning stretch routine with yoga wake up. That's one of the apps that's listed over here. And then there's also just the simple keeping track of your daily steps with either a fitness tracker on your phone, an app, a Fitbit, something like that, and creating a competition out of it. I know a lot of sites have had some success with this, and the interns really get into it. To highlight one of the apps that I've come across is Charity Miles. It's a great way to get active and also give back. For each mile you walk, run, bike, you kind of get to choose on the app. Money will be donated to a charity of your choosing. It's a cool way to really reward your efforts of being active to giving back to an organization that is meaningful to you. And I have all these apps listed in a handout. Yasmina, is this where I access that arrow you were talking about, or is that later on?
Yes, you can access it.
Okay, let me see.
Do you need me to help you?
Yes, I don't know if I can see where that is.
Right here.
Oh, okay. So this lists all the online resources that I've put together for physical health, nutritional health, and also a few mental health apps. And so from what I understand, you guys will all have access to this later on. So you don't have to be jotting these down at the moment. You'll be able to see this once the presentation is posted as well. Can we go back to the PowerPoint, Yasmina? Thank you. So for nutritional health, a few activity ideas are you can make some visits to the worksite cafeteria to talk through the different options, looking at the nutritional label, talking through healthy options, trying new foods, creating food logs of what kinds of foods they're eating throughout the week, not just during the day, but also when they're at home. You could have a healthy food potluck, make smoothies together for an after-work snack at the end of the day, or even have a water intake log for each intern if that's something that you guys choose to really focus on. A fun app that I found to keep track of how much water you're drinking is this Plant Nanny app. It sounds kind of silly, but it's actually, I find it pretty rewarding. The premise of this app is to help this virtual plant grow and to keep it healthy. And in order to do this, it reminds you to hydrate yourself and to keep track of how much water you're intaking throughout the day. Something just to keep you accountable. And then in terms of mental health, as we went through our pilot project, I know a lot of instructors wanted resources for stress management, for mental health, to talk about it and to have some activities to do. Some activity ideas are deep breathing, guided meditation, using I can statements, journaling, and even having a check-in buddy. So there's a lot of apps you could use for this as well. One that everyone's pretty familiar with is Headspace. That's a pretty good resource. And then there's also the Happify app. It's also a website, and you're able to tailor it to kind of your own needs depending on what you want to focus on. As you can see, there's like a mindful track, there's relationship track, there's a health and well-being track, and I just wanted to highlight this coping better with stress. When you access it, it asks you a few questions about what does stress you out, what do you do in times of stress, And then it gives you a few sample activities of what you can do online to kind of be mindful and to change the way you're thinking. So that one's kind of cool to play around with. I've only done a few things on there so far, but that's something to kind of cool that you don't have to come up with the activities on your own. They kind of populate themselves. That's something cool to check out. So like I had mentioned before, we really want to emphasize how do we stay healthy beyond just Project Search, beyond this one academic year. How do we really equip our interns and families with the tools they need to continue on this journey of a healthy lifestyle as they graduate from Project Search and as they begin their employment? So a few ideas for that are engaging the families throughout the academic year with newsletters. HealthMatters has newsletter templates throughout their curriculum, and you can make your own with pictures, topics that you covered throughout the week. On Fridays, you could do take-home activities and really reinforce the goals that you're going to set at the beginning of the curriculum. Discuss like one action item they're going to do over the weekend to move towards their goal. Health and wellness is something that can also be brought up in their employment planning meeting, their IEP meetings. It's a great time for interns to really advocate for themselves and to really showcase the goals that they've set for themselves in terms of health and wellness and why they think that's important for their overall goals as well. Some community resources that instructors can reach out to outside of the online resources that I had provided before. Well, the first one is an app, but it's MindBody app, and that's an application that will help you find fitness classes in your area. So that's something that your interns can use in their day-to-day life to find classes if that's something that they're interested in. Reaching out to your local YMCA or community center to see what kinds of activities they have available. You can also look at or find local parks and hiking trails, reaching out to a nearby career tech or community college that has like exercise science students, personal training students, anyone in like the fitness industry to see if you could set up like a mentoring program with your intern so that they'll have someone teaching them other than you. That would be kind of fun. I know there's one site in Ohio that already has this connection and they do this every year. You can also look into private or commercial gyms or even local 5K fun runs once we are able to actually have group gatherings and such like that. Obviously, some of these things right now are not feasible, but I still wanted to bring them to your mind forefront just to think about in the long run. So what you can look forward to in terms of the guideline. So you saw a template for just lesson 1, but that's what all the lessons are going to look like. So it'll be uniform and you'll have easy access to this online through the Project Search member portal. In addition to that, kind of like today, how I have a whole handout with additional online resources, there's going to be plenty more.
Oh, Karen, can you hear us? We lost you. Mary Ellen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
It looks like we lost Karen. Can you take over?
Sure, I think we're almost done. So yes, so as Karen was saying, this guidelines that we're creating are going to be, if you are a member of Project Search or a Project Search team, the guidelines that we're making are going to be fully integrated with the regular Project Search employability curriculum using the same format that has just been developed, as Karen said, by Susie Rukowski. And then we'll have all of these other things, resources that Karen has curated that will be available also. All right, that was it. So I hope we can get Karen back for the questions, but I can handle them until we do that.
Thanks, Mary Ellen and Karen. Hopefully you can get back on. One question that did come through is, do these apps require a smartphone?
So some of them, yes, but some of them can be done on the computer, on just a regular computer, or websites. So most of them have both versions,
okay.
Smartphone app or just a computer website.
I really liked the plant one, and
yes,
I actually was checking out. Yeah, I was checking out the charitymiles.org, and it looks great too.
Yes, I think those things could be really motivating. I think is Karen back?
Hello?
Hi. Is that
Hi,
Karen?
Karen.
Oh, perfect.
We suddenly lost you.
Oh, no.
We're taking questions. For
okay.
those of you who have any questions, please put them in the chat or question and answer box, please.
Yes, we were just talking about how wonderfully motivating that plant nanny was, taking care of that plant and taking care of yourself at the same time.
It seems silly, but it just makes your mind think about it, and it gives you reminders. So it's just a little something to keep you motivated.
We have a couple other questions coming through.
Okay.
You will be receiving a copy of this presentation, and the recording will be made available. So when that is ready, we will post it on our YouTube channel, and from there you'll be able to access all of the materials as well. So we will be emailing you. And then Tara was asking, how do we gain access to the HealthMatters curriculum? Are you with Project Search? Did you want to, Mary Ellen, Karen, do you want to answer this, or do you want me to?
Well, I think there's two ways, obviously, that you can purchase it, and it's available through Amazon, and Yasmina maybe, and also right directly from the publisher. And then we do have many copies. We were able to buy a supply through this Ohio DD Council grant, and we can, if you contact me or Karen, we could send one to you. But we don't have enough for everyone. But first come, first serve. But it's not expensive.
For the purchase one, I will just post the link. The cheapest version of getting it is via Amazon. You will be able to I'll just post it. Otherwise, if you cannot get a hold of a free copy,
and it comes really fast. I had to reorder one because I lost my copy, and it came the next day. So I will say that it was fast service.
Then there's another question. How much buy-in does the interns' families play with assisting in this project?
Sure. So I think with our pilot project, that was really, we wanted to gain input from the instructors through that part of our project. I think
we had focus groups with the interns as well.
Yes, and the interns. And I think our next step will need to integrate how do we get the families really involved. And I think I just slightly touched upon that, like how can we really involve these families in the content and also in really promoting this type of environment for their young adults, right? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that we have families on our advisory committee, and we've really heard loud and clear from them that they, and of course, they are on our advisory committee, which means that they are motivated and interested, but they have really let us know that this whole concept of continuing this learning and healthy habits beyond the project search year is very important to them. So, so a lot of what Karen talked about was the ways we've thought about how to take it home, how to expand it, how to make it continue in the home. And I think the more that we do that, the families can see it firsthand and be involved. But it's a challenge, of course.
Yes. Because not only are we trying to change. Sorry. Just one last thing.
No. Finish your thoughts.
Not only are we trying to change health behaviors of our interns with the involvement of families, that may also in turn require them to make some changes as well. So obviously there are some challenges with that, but those are things that we'll all need to work through.
And there is a comment that family engagement strategies is the key, which we do tend to agree as well, especially when we run the 12-week HealthMatters program in community-based organizations during the day programs. But once participants with disabilities go home, some of those healthy behaviors really get lost unless we really involve the family members to make sure that the messages and behaviors are sort of repeated at home as well. There's plenty of individuals in this population have pretty poor eating habits, plenty of soda, usually prefer junk food. I really want our interns to have autonomy over their nutrition choices, so I do the best that I can to motivate more healthy choices. Mm-hmm. So, Scott, I just wanted to make a comment on this. We always talk, when we teach these classes, we always talk about with your right comes a responsibility. So with your right to eat whatever you want, there is a responsibility to you and to your health to actually kind of think about the choices that you're making. And oftentimes we have not necessarily given people with disabilities or sort of opened up the choices for them to be able to understand what it means to drink soda every day and what are the consequences of that.
And
so
Karen has
a lot of the...
Go ahead, Yasmina. No, I didn't want to finish your thought.
I just wanted to say a lot of the lessons really focus on really building this capacity and taking charge of your health as a person to understand why you wouldn't be doing certain things. So it really is kind of building that self-efficacy or confidence to be able to choose different foods. Go ahead. I'm done.
We've tried to build on that, on those lessons that are, integral into the curriculum by bringing foods, encouraging as part of each lesson to bring, and Karen had designed this activity so she can talk more about it, but bringing healthy foods in to the classroom, giving everyone the opportunity to try it, and then they have a discussion about, did you like it, did you not like it? So it's sort of a concrete, here's a fruit that maybe you've never seen or never tried, or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can't take credit for that. One of our pilot site instructors came up with this activity idea, was to bring in a different type of food every week for her interns to try, and really to log whether they tried it, did they like it or did they not, and really saw, like, by the end of the year, you could visually see how many foods like these interns actually liked but just weren't eating in their daily life. And obviously they were given like the healthy options versus like trying like chips that they know they're gonna like, right? but providing these opportunities for discussion and really physically trying the food, tasting it, being mindful of what they like about it, what they don't like about it, making it like a full experience for them.
I think, and it's a group activity, it's fun, you know,
Yeah.
they laugh a lot, and they also, I think they get over some of that anxiety of trying new things, which is really, can be really scary. So it kind of gets through a lot of those barriers. And I think it complements what they're learning in the curriculum. So that's just one way. Of course, you know, these are huge challenges. We talk about it as though it's easy, but we can make a dent. To change someone's eating habits, you really have to change. It's hard to do it as an individual who's living in a household with other people. The whole household really has to do it,
right,
to be successful. So, you know, we do what we can.
Yes, we talk a lot. We spend a lot of time talking about that during the lessons. There was one question as ED of, I'm sorry, I may mispronounce this, but MOFEET. I would love to share this information with individuals and families who are not in residential. How can we give them access to these resources in this program? I'm sure that there are other organizations like Impact and People First, they could bring this to a large population. So Marla, by that, do you mean HealthMatters curriculum, or do you mean the Project Search program?
I think while we're waiting, HealthMatters, of course, is available for anyone to use and can be used in a variety of settings. Project Search is one. We're also as part of this project.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so as Mina, as you said, you can purchase HealthMatters, use it in any community organization or setting, and
that's correct.
Yes, and as part of this project that we're doing with HealthMatters and Project Search and integrating these two programs, we're also, the next step will be to make guidelines that are more applicable to any transition program. So we're trying to broaden it a little bit to use in other types of transition, as well as Project Search.
For those of you who are interested, sorry, Mary Ellen, for those of you who are interested in HealthMatters program, I've just put down the healthmattersprogram.org website. So you will be able to see all of the offerings that we have. We do provide trainings specifically to for the 12-week program, and the health messages, which is a slightly different program, and some others. Just in relation to HealthMatters program, we are also working, due to COVID and everything that's happening, we're working on a virtual classroom using Google Classroom to bring some of these lessons to homes where people are living. So I'm actually testing it out with a couple of organizations in Chicagoland area, and we have about 5 or 6 homes participating, kind of a mini pilot to see if this type of format works for individuals with disabilities. So kind of stay tuned on that virtual classroom realm. There's another question. The new updated PS curriculum with new HealthMatters curriculum, when will it be available on the portal?
Okay, well, so the entire Project Search curriculum is being redesigned with Susie Rakowski is at the head of that, as Karen said. So we were very fortunate that the timing was right, that this new template, we had designed our own template, Karen and I, for the HealthMatters lessons, and then independently, Susie designed, and her team designed their template, and we've merged them, and the entire thing, we're hoping to get our part of it done in time for to release it on the member portal by the beginning of the school year. I'm going to say it now to force us to do it, make that commitment. And I don't know that the rest of the curriculum, that's a bit of a bigger job. So I think that you'll be seeing that. I hope for the upcoming program year, but possibly sometime during the program year. But in the meantime, the current curriculum is there.
Let us know if you have any other questions. We have a couple of more minutes. While we're waiting for additional questions, I wanted to share, or I wanted to actually announce another webinar series in partnership with Project Search and another community-based organization, Aspire, in Chicagoland area. We have, we are launching a new webinar series. This is a very low-tech announcement I ran out of time, so I'm so sorry. So the first webinar is on May 26th, and it is really looking at the COVID-19 response now and moving forward for people with intellectual disabilities. Just stay in touch. I will be adding your emails if you you wanted to add. If you said you wanted to be on our listserv, I will be adding you to this to these announcements. So we have planned 12 different webinars. We're very excited about it. We're really working diligently on posting and setting up all the registrations. So this is the first one that's happening in less than 2 weeks. So just stay tuned. It's sad that we have to do this, but I think the information is very necessary. So some of the topics that Beth just said, the webinar is actually in a week. So some of the other topics that we are going to be presenting on is protecting ourselves, protecting others, what to wear at work and why. So thinking about hygiene and personal protective equipment and social distancing, and this is specific to community homes where it's working with people with disabilities. And then we will be presenting on some resources for people with intellectual disabilities in another webinar. Impact of COVID on organizations serving individuals with intellectual disabilities, and determining what's needed now and in the future in response to COVID will be presented through Survival Coalition and the ARC Wisconsin. Preparing your employees for the impact of COVID, updates from providers. So we're really, we were able to pull together the webinar series and try to get some information out, and we're almost doing a webinar a week. So stay tuned.
Yes, we're so excited about being part of this at Project Search.
Yes, we're very excited. Yes, we're very excited that we are partnering with Project Search to bring this together. And it would be great if people have any topics that you want that are COVID related. We're happy to research and try to pull a webinar together and invite presenters. It's not just, we're not the ones presenting, we have multiple presenters. So just kind of stay tuned in this. All right, we will stick around for another minute or so to see if there are any other questions. Thank you all for joining us today. Stay safe and healthy. And thank you again, Karen and Mary Ellen, for, as always, great presentations.
Thank you so much.
it looks like there's no questions. A lot of people are saying thank you. Some people are saying nice to hear human voices.
I totally get that. I agree.
I know. It's very rainy here, and I'm in my basement, so yeah.
It's gloomy here too, pouring down rain. All right, well, it's 3 o'clock, so thank you so much. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.